Call the meeting to order at 7:04. All rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tim, would you please?
Dear Lord, as we come together tonight, we humbly ask your blessing upon all the members of this community and this gathering, that we may all return safely home. We give thanks for the selfless works of all the people, both here at home and abroad, that keep us safe. May we always remember and cherish the many sacrifices of those who protect our freedoms. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, we have a slight change. The public hearing for the solar project moratorium, we're just going to move to a little bit later until the town attorney gets here. But we will be having that public hearing and discussion on that subject tonight. So first I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:05 on the 2020 budget. Okay. And at this time, any comments, questions, or suggestions for it? If not, it will remain open for a little longer. Okay. Town clerk's report, please.
I have the minutes from the October 16th meeting and changes or additions.
Did anybody have any changes or corrections to the regular town board meeting from the 16th of October? Motion to accept?
I'll make that.
Jeff Luker, second.
I'll second.
Diane, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
And one last reminder that when signed, Radiology and the Red Cross will be here on the 20th of this month.
Blood drive.
Yes, Red Cross.
Yep. Okay. If anybody wants to give blood, November 20th is a good day to do it here. Or if anybody knows anybody that needs a mammogram, have them bring their insurance card, because we'll have the 3D imaging thing will be here in the parking lot. Okay, anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Code enforcement is not here. Highway superintendent is not here. Town justice. What you got for us, Bill? Anything? Nothing. Quiet month?
Pardon?
Quiet around here, huh?
It's just lonely up there.
Good. Historian. Okay. Dan.
There was no meeting, so nothing to report.
Okay. Tim?
Ditto. No meeting that I'm aware of.
Okay. Diane?
Next water agency board meeting is January 14th. For anyone that's interested, it's an open meeting.
What is it?
It's the Water Resource Agency, so it's the Genesee County meeting for planning the water district.
14th of December?
14th of January.
Of January.
They meet once a quarter. We already had ours.
And on that topic, there was an article in today's paper, if anybody saw it, or I mean on the Batavian, the county and the city has signed their 40-year agreement.
Right.
The county will be taking over the responsibilities of the, what they call wastewater treatment plant. So there'll be an additional 60 cents a gallon surcharge for public water going in to help pay for new infrastructure for the different water districts. So just
They have to bring the Batavian one offline while they're bringing the others
stuff in.
online. Yeah.
Chief?
All right, it's been kind of quiet. Haven't had a whole lot going on. Our first winter we had, that was quiet, no accidents, so that's working pretty good. And still, if anybody's looking for a part-time, something to do, keep you occupied, please come see me, stop up at the hall. We're there Monday nights from from what I see around the room, we have a job for everybody that's sitting here. So please come on up and see me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. On the old business, first thing we're gonna do, well, we'll get to that stuff. Transfer station. Everybody got a sheet on the transfer station. As of the end of October, the transfer station is now $2,600 in the red. Okay, that has been negative every month for the last 10 months. And if this trend continues, we're gonna have to look at either raising the fees per bag for trash and for recyclables, or we're gonna look at closing the transfer station. So just as a heads up, that is not looking good at the moment.
So if we raise it, if they're not using it now and we raise it,
Well, here's the thing. When we've had this discussion, and it'll go to a public discussion again, like we have in the past, and that's why we raised it the last time, and because there is some people in town that use it and that want it, but on the other side of that coin, you have taxpayers that do not want it subsidized using their tax dollars. So, that's why we raised the prices the way we did last time, and it was good for a couple of years, and now it's fallen off considerably. And I feel that that's due to the fact that there is more curbside pickup available in town, so some of those people that did want the transfer station are no longer using it. So, but again, I'll have a public meeting on that after the first of the year, once we see where the numbers fall for the year. And, you know, it'll be one of those heated discussions again as usual, but, you know, we'll go from there because I've already had people are watching the minutes. They do see this report that we put out every month, and they're still adamant that they don't want to subsidize. They don't use it. They don't want to subsidize it. It's not, you know, so we'll have to cross that ugly bridge when we get to it. The next old business issue I'd like to talk about is the lighting proposals that we talked about. I have gone ahead and I have scheduled the highway garage lights to all be converted over from what they have now, those fluorescent tubes, to the LED lights, because that was going to be a considerable savings of about $9,000 a year. So we will be starting that in approximately 3 weeks. The company will be down there to do that. Okay. Old Town Hall update. We have received a purchase offer on the Old Town Hall. It is contingent on a few things. Today I received a letter from the engineering firm with the specs and the size of the raised septic system that's required for that building to be placed behind that building within acceptable limits of the what do you want to call it? Storage barn, I guess is a polite word for it. So I've got Tom Douglas and I have to sit down and we have to work out some distances on that to see what's available. Now, as we had talked before with the highway superintendent, the highway department is willing to give up 28 feet of that building, which we've already looked at it where the walls are, the seams are, and the steel and on the roof. They would remove 2 bays, but again, they still need more storage. So they wanted to know the possibility of, if we do remove the 28 feet from that building, putting 2 lean-to styles on the, what we call the drop barn, the big freestanding pole barn. and put a back on it and a side on it, so they've got a place to get some things out of the weather. And we've also been talking lately about the possibility of a 35 by 40 foot pole barn where the old barn was. We have some equipment that is being stored in the salt shed, like a big John Deere tractor with mowers, the backhoe, because Bethany, we do not have any structures big enough to put these into. So we're kicking around some idea, I'm kicking around some discussion with the highway superintendent and the highway department to get a little give and take, to see how that's gonna work. And I'm also working with the assessor on the issues regarding that building. So that's where we are with the old town hall at the moment. Water district updates. Water District 2, which was completed approximately a year ago. 4 of the booster pumps that were required for that water district have unfiltered failed. They've recalled those booster pumps. They are sending, there's 5 out there. 4 of them have failed. One of them we don't know because the resident's gone to Florida until April. So I'm hoping it doesn't have the failure while she's gone, because that won't be good. After a lot of one-sided discussion with the company, we are getting 5 new pumps at no cost. They didn't want to stand behind them because 1, they ordered them a year ahead of when they needed them. 2, they've been in the system for a year, so they're actually a year out of warranty, but that didn't fly. So we're getting 5 new booster pumps. I just got to work out some details with them. I'm trying to get them to also pay for the replacement of those. So that's Water District 2. Water District 4. Everything's been signed. We just got the intermunicipal water agreement with the Town of Batavia. We signed that last week, sent it back to the attorneys, and sent it back to the Town of Batavia. Once that's in, we will be into the pre-bid package. So we're getting closer to putting that out to bid. Water District 5. Water District 5, all the environmentals have passed and are completed and approved by the state agencies. So we'll be moving ahead with that. Water District, in regards to figuring out all the easements that'll be required, to make sure we get all the legals done for easements for creeks and drainage areas and bridges and things like that. So that one's moving ahead as well. Slowly, it's creeping. Okay. Now, it is 7:17. Are there any questions regarding the budget? Again, the budget is the same as it has been for the last few years. We are not raising taxes. So the budget has been the same. And if there are no questions or comments, I'm going to close the public hearing at this time on the 2020 budget. I'll move ahead to the resolution for adoption of the 2020 annual town budget. Whereas the Town of Bethany Chief Financial Officer prepared a tentative budget for review by the Bethany Town Board. And whereas the Town Board has reviewed the tentative budget in formulation of the preliminary budget, and whereas the 2020 preliminary budget was adopted on October 16, 2019, and after which a public hearing was held tonight, November 13, 2019, for all interested parties to be heard, with a public hearing notice being published and posted on November 7, 2019. I need a motion to adopt the 2020 annual budget. Jeff Fluker. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Dan Street. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? New business. All right. First order of the new business is a resolution for the code enforcement officer's travel request. Whereas the code enforcement officer is required to obtain 24 continuing education credits for code enforcement officers each year. And whereas the code enforcement officer is requesting permission to attend the 2020 Niagara Frontier Building Officials Conference to be held in Buffalo, New York from January 26th to the 29th, 2020, in order to fulfill this requirement. And whereas the cost of attending the conference will be divided between the Town of Bethany, the City of Batavia, the Village of Warsaw, and possibly the County of Genesee. Do you know what the total on that is?
It is about $620 plus his hours, which is usually what the city pays.
Okay. So it would be $620, approximately $620 divided in 4 ways. So we will we'll pay the whole thing up front, and I will collect our money.
It's never a problem.
It's never a problem, that's right.
And the only reason Genesee County is a possibility is he resigned from there over a year ago, but they can't find anyone to take his spot. So they won't let him go.
That might be right in your predicament.
If he's still gonna be there, he's
Yeah.
gonna charge them.
So I need a motion to approve the travel request from the code enforcement officer for training.
So moved.
Diane Fowler, second.
No second.
Tim Knapp, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. The next is a modification of the budget. Whereas the highway superintendent has requested a transfer of funds within the highway department budget for unexpected equipment repairs. Barb and I talked about this. She told me what they had going on with some brake lines and some issues with the 1.5-ton truck. We went through her budget to see what money she had left and what we could do with it. So we're going to remove $3,800 from the DA 5142.4 snow removal contractual to the DA 5130.4 machinery contractual, so that we can get the 1.5-ton dump truck fixed for snow plowing. So I need a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Dan Street, second.
One second.
Jeff Fluker, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next is the resolution of the Town Board of the Town of Bethany authorizing the adoption of the 2019 Genesee County, New York Hazard Mitigation Plan. Whereas all jurisdictions within Genesee County have exposure to natural hazards that increase the risk of life, property, environment, and the county and local economy. And whereas proactive mitigation of known hazards before a disaster event can reduce or eliminate long-term risk to life and property. And whereas the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000, Public Law 106-390, established new requirements for pre- and post-disaster hazard mitigation programs. And whereas a coalition of Genesee County municipalities with like planning objectives have been formed to pool resources to create consistent mitigation strategies within Genesee County. And whereas the coalition has completed a planning process that engages the public assesses the risk and vulnerability to the impacts of natural hazards, develops a mitigation strategy consistent with a set of uniform goals and objectives, and creates a plan for implementing, evaluating, and revising this strategy. Be it resolved that the Town of Bethany adopts in its entirety the 2019 Genesee County Hazard Mitigation Plan, or the plan, as the jurisdiction's hazard mitigation plan, and resolves to execute the actions identified in the plan that pertain to this jurisdiction. 2, will use the adopted and approved portions of the plan to guide pre- and post-disaster mitigation of the hazards identified. 3, will coordinate the strategies identified in the plan with other planning programs and mechanisms under its jurisdictional authority. 4, will continue its support of the Hazard Mitigation Steering Committee and Planning Partnership as described in the plan. 5, will help to promote and support the mitigation success of all participants in this plan. 6, will incorporate mitigation planning as an integral component of government and partner operations. 7, will provide an update of the plan in conjunction with the county no less than every 5 years. You will each be getting a copy of the plan to have as the town board members. It is also on the county's website for anybody that wants to peruse it. So I need a motion to adopt the county's 2019 hazard mitigation plan in its entirety. I'll make the motion. Jeff Fluker, second. Diane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Okay. I went too fast. So that's it. Okay. It is now 7:26. I'm going to open the public hearing on the proposed local law for a large-scale solar project moratorium. Anybody have any questions as to why? Why? With the increased encroachment of large-scale solar farms, these 1,200 acres, the 2,000-acre solar farms, after talking with Tom Douglas, we've gone through our town's codes. We have no protection against them. So, we have put this out for this moratorium so that we can get some more information and so we can write some codes and some rules as to what we want here in Bethany. And this is not going to be the last public hearing on the matter. I want your input. I am looking for your input as residents or, of people in Bethany on how you feel about this. Because in case you can't tell, you might be able to tell how I feel about this subject. I'm not in favor of it. I'm not in favor of these big solar farms. So that's why we started, when they had the issues in Byron, Caledonia, now in Castile, with these extremely large solar farms. We have no protection here. We have no codes, no nothing for, we have them for homeowners and small businesses. That's fine. I have nothing against that. But to take 1,200 farm acres here in Bethany and turn it into a solar farm, I'm going to take an issue with it. I've been contacted by some of the farmers here in town. I've been contacted by some of the residents here in town that are adamantly opposed to this. So that's why we are doing this moratorium. Will give us 6 months to work on getting some sort of codes written, rules, things that we want done, things that we, for seeding. If we do decide that we want a 1 acre or a 5 acre one, whatever our limits are, they're gonna have to seed it with, natural foliage from the area, weeds and flowers and local things like that. That's what we want.
Probably should be sunflowers.
Pardon? Probably sunflowers. So this moratorium gives us 6 months to start working on, what we need to do here in town to regulate it. Okay? Now, at the end of the 6 months, we don't necessarily have to have it finished. As long as we can show that we're progressing reasonably, we can get up to an additional 6 months to make sure we get everything the way we want it here in town. So that is the reason for this public hearing, to pass this large-scale solar projects moratorium to get, because it freezes everything. Okay? If we don't do this, they can come in next week, fill out their paperwork, and do it. But if we do this, it stops everything it gives us a 6-month buffer. That's why we're doing it, so we can write some codes. Yes?
Do you consider having a study committee? Because when the turbine issue came here, we had input as town members. I would like a study committee for that.
We can work on it. This is all new to me, okay? Because I've watched the other towns get it jammed down their throat, and I want to stop it, take a look at it, and see what we can do. But I will write that down, and we will discuss that too.
Because most of these projects, when they come in, they do solicit the farmers, and very few of them are smaller than 20 acres. So they have a big impact.
Oh, yeah.
And to your knowledge, has there been any formal applications from these companies?
There's been none.
Nothing.
Nothing.
No one's even contacted.
They haven't even contacted anybody here in Bethany, but that's why, when it all started going on, and the big discussions in Stafford, the big issues up north of us, we decided, and that's why we set about last month's meeting to set this public hearing for this month on this moratorium, is we want to try to get ahead of the situation. If you follow what I'm trying to do,
Well, that's why I suggested back in May about it, and that's when our attorney said, that's way down the road. Well, I guess this is way down the road.
well,
It wasn't as far as.
I'm not waiting anymore.
Right.
We're getting, we talked about it. We're gonna get the ball rolling so we can try to protect Bethany the best we can.
And that's the key, because we have to be thorough too, because
Yep.
there's a lot of issues. It has to do also environmental impact.
Yep.
And then the same thing that happened when we had the industrial turbines trying to come in. In fact, Mr. Madio brought in a generic environmental impact study that did not apply to our town. I just want to see the same thing happen before, because anybody that might have been there, and I think you might remember, some of the creeks that were named weren't even in our township, so it told me that the town board wasn't doing their due diligence to make sure it was a thorough study.
That's why I'm taking the lead on it.
Yes.
You know how I am.
Oh, I hope I know who we are.
Huh?
I hope I do.
Well, but that's why we took this issue up last month, to have this public hearing tonight, to set this moratorium so we can write.
And they have approached the other farmers, because I know, Ray Ladd here, they had sent in information in the mail about a year ago, and I'm sure they did the same thing to any large landowner, and that's my concern, because we do have corporate farmers here that own not only hundreds but thousands of acres.
Oh, yeah.
And it could dot our community where we're driving through an industrial park. I mean, it could get out of that control. Then you know how nice NYSERDA is these days too, like you say. If you don't get something set now,
That's why, yeah.
they'll take over, and that's what I mentioned last meeting too, about our ability to have home rule. They're chipping away at that, as you know, and they only allow, through Article 10, 2 people from your township to participate when it gets to that point.
But they don't.
Exactly.
In all honesty, yes, Article 10 states that,
Right.
but they don't. The state does
Exactly.
not
So
want
that's why
to
you
talk
have to do your
to
due diligence
people.
and make sure,
Yes,
because you're not gonna have a voice there, and that's a fact.
that's why.
They will not take the time, or they have a choice who those representatives from your town are gonna be.
Yeah,
So they can-
because the big thing is with these big solar farms, the assessment and the discounts are ridiculous. When it's all said and done, what little bit of tax dollars that are charged per acre, once you split that between the school, the town, and the county, there's nothing there.
Talking about pilot, pilot.
If they go through the pilot programs, yeah, so I'm not a fan of that
Well, it's a
either.
corporate money grab, you know.
Yep.
Town of
But-
Berry's going through the same thing right now between the panels, and they're talking about 700-foot turbines up there.
Yep,
And it's the same exact thing.
yep. But in 20 years, you've got a field full of garbage.
Yeah, exactly.
And the one in Caledonia is expanding. So that one managed to get in. I know the farmer that was renting the land that now is being used. And what happened is previously, the landowner, the farmer, had sold to a conglomerate, a corporation, right, an investment company. That investment company for years allowed the farmers to rent back the land and farm it. But once he got approached, it was far better for him to stop renting the land. And what's happened now is it's creeping.
Sure.
So they're just going farther and
It's
farther.
another
And
corporate money grab is what it is.
Yeah. they got in there before they could, before they were prepared.
Not to mention your property values too. You know, they start to adopt your country roads. I mean, you just lost your rural
yeah.
environment there.
I talked to one lady up there in Byron, when they get done with this big project up there, she's gonna be surrounded on all 4 sides of her
Your
house
house is worth half
by
of what it
solar
was.
farms.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous.
Sure.
You know,
And you got the
but-
health risk too, because there's stations to transfer that power to the grid. If you're close to that too, there's issues with radiation and other
Also
things.
lead in those solar panels.
Yeah, there's a lot of lead
Lot
in
of
those
lead in
solar
there.
panels. So that's why we're having the public hearing. That's why we're trying to pass a moratorium. We want 6 months of protection to get some codes and some things written and get some ideas and get together and find out what we can do. We're also gonna find out what we can't do, you know? So this is a big community involvement thing. And, you know, unfortunately, it was in the paper, and I thank you all for coming for it. I really do. I'm quite sadly disappointed. But we will go.
Well,
I've got a comment when he's done.
no, I was just gonna say that the bad part about it is when you do your legal notice, you know how big those are. It does cost a little money, but I think that's part of the problem too, is the publication of the advertising for the meeting. Maybe penny saver would be a good idea, because people probably more have to see it in a,
Well-
you know, even a quarter page or something, you know. Because like I say, very few people read them little public notices.
We've got X amount of dollars
Yeah, I understand.
in our budget, and the law says you have to have 1 publication, so that's what we do. You know, I mean, everybody knows that they're there. Everybody knows about the town's website. We put it on the board out, the public board outside, what's going on.
At some
Well,
point, people
even-
have
At
to
some
be
point, people have to
responsible
take
for
the little
themselves.
responsibility.
Re-advertise, yeah, right, but you know how it is, and the only reason that so many people turned out for the industrial turbine project was because the Batavia Daily made a splash about it. So we could have an interview, or anybody could call. you
Anybody
guys-
can have an interview.
Well, I'm just saying. we could
Anybody
call-
can have an interview with video
Right,
news
that's-
service.
Right, that's what I'm saying, so in other words, we could call the paper and say, hey, you know, this
Yeah.
going on, could you do a little piece on it?
Yeah.
And there's your free advertising.
Yep, what I mean, but that's what this large-scale solar project moratorium is all about. I mean, I'm not hiding nothing.
So there's a
We don't
gray-
have the
there's a
codes.
gray area though, 'cause if you write in that they can have 5 acres, you've opened the door for bigger. So that's the fine line question. Are you gonna open up for individual residential use, a couple on your roof, your backyard? Or are you gonna draw lines, you know, because
all
if you open
stuff
that door,
That's all stuff we're gonna talk about, because I've got Covington's, what they've done, I got what they've just done. You know, one of their basic ones is anything from 5,000 to 100,000 square feet. So, like, is that 100,000 square feet? Let's just say roughly it's 10 acres. So, okay, so we want in here. Oh, we want this 10 acres, and this 10 acres, and this 10 acres, and this 10 acres.
Right.
You know, I mean,
10 acres is big.
as far as I'm concerned, you know, some towns are going 20, Batavia's going 20 acres. They're going 20 acres. But they don't say if it's continuous
Right.
or anything. Personally, it's not gonna be continuous unless I can't do it. You know, so, yes, ma'am.
I was wondering what you would begin to study, and how you would begin to study it. How would you get a group to study the hazards? You, just to go back for a moment, in the earlier part of the meeting, you talked about Genesee County disaster mitigation and planning and adoption. And you must have the paperwork on that and see what they're wanting. Here, and the beginning of the meeting, you said something about you didn't know how it was going to go with the garbage pickup because the people don't want to subsidize the garbage pickup when they're not using it any longer. In other words, they don't want the
Yeah, they don't want to use, if they're,
Yeah.
the taxpayers don't want to pay to keep the dump open with their tax dollars if they don't use it. Yes, that's.
Okay, so I just want to put those two things together and apply them to what you're doing right now with your moratorium. Because a lot of people have studied this and they know that it's very hazardous to have the town filled. And I can see that you really feel that way also. You probably talk to a lot more people in Byron than most of the people in the group.
I think I talked to more people in Byron than some of the people in Byron.
That's good, that's good. So you have two things that you've mentioned here this evening. One is people don't want to pay for something twice. Like people really don't want to pay for electricity twice, but in fact, if you go on the back of your bill, your electric bill, you can see that you are subsidizing NYSERDA
Yeah.
for this
Yeah.
electricity. And then it just keeps going round and round and round, and you pay more and more.
It's a vicious cycle because on your thing about the electric, the power that's generated at Niagara Falls is sold to Nevada. Wait,
Why can't it come here? Is the
why can't it
question.
come
Nevada
here?
will pay
Why
more
are we
money.
getting our electric from Canada?
Goes to high bidder.
Yeah, Nevada will pay more for the power than.
I know, but, you know,
All
which,
pay for
But you're making a lot of sense, and you're asking the right question. And what I'm trying to say is, you've hit two really important things this evening by talking about disaster mitigation. Disaster, I'm not gonna say the word because I can't get it right now.
that's okay.
Okay, so you're also thinking about subsidies. There are many, many subjects that need to be gone over before. You have to first identify the negative impacts. You have to identify the science, you have to identify so many things that it seems to me you really have to set up a group of people, 4 or 5 people, that will go over all this
And we will.
material and give you a written report.
Yeah, 'cause right now, I am gonna have a meeting, a ground floor meeting with the tax assessor, the code enforcement officer, the head of our planning board, our town attorney. And I've got a stack of stuff that they're gonna have to go through.
So may I suggest that you include some citizens?
I will.
And there may be some citizens that love science that could help you with a lot of the problems, because the basic problems are economics, science, health, and the fact that we lose our sovereignty when we give it our land, our beauty, et cetera, over to the government. It's a government give me subsidy kind of thing. I'm not really sure what it's. And we also buy into the fact that everything is getting hotter, and you can really tell this last 2 or 3 days how much hotter it's getting out and how much warmer the climate is becoming. That was a sarcastic.
I can tell, you know, yes, and after this initial meeting with these 5 people in the town At next month's meeting, as a matter of fact, I'll tell you right now, in next month's meeting, I was gonna put it out in the minutes that if anybody is interested in being part of a committee, to contact me, and I'll get your name and your information, and as we move along, you know, I'm not gonna have a 100-person committee.
Oh, no.
You know, I mean, I'm gonna be honest
We
with
won't
you.
have that many
You know,
volunteers.
I'm gonna have the 5 of us, because I'm gonna be part of it. I'm not gonna be in charge of it,
But you'll be
I'm gonna be
studying,
part of it.
you'll be studying also.
Yeah, yeah, and,
I heard this gentleman say that he was interested, so I don't know.
And what we
oh, I
did-
got your number.
Yeah. But what we did before on the turbine thing, one person took environment, one took health issues, one took, you know, impacts to soil, or, you know, I mean, everybody can do their own thing, bring it together, share the information.
I am gonna do
You
that.
compile it into a study.
I am gonna come out because at the next month's meeting with that request from the public, from the residents. You know, I mean, nothing against people that are non-residents to Bethany. I would prefer residents' input. You know, it's not that I won't have a meeting with somebody that doesn't live in the town and listen to what they have to say and take notes, but I want and I need taxpayers in this town to get off their duff and show up and show me that they're interested in yes or no, and why. But I will listen to anybody that has a comment, anybody that has a question, I will try to get you an answer for it.
So is a taxpayer a citizen?
Yes.
Because I'm a taxpayer, but not a
It-
citizen.
Are you a taxpayer in Bethany?
Yes.
Then yes, ma'am, I want to hear from you, especially you.
Why is that?
Because you have a vested interest in this town.
I do.
Versus somebody that's not from Bethany that wants to help, which is a good thing. You know what I'm saying? You know, but I want to get people from Bethany or that are paying their taxes in our town involved.
I think it's worth once that committee is formed, whomever it is, that we reach out to the towns that are feeling the pain right now.
Yeah.
Because they're learning a painful lesson
Sure.
that they can
Yeah.
educate us on avoiding.
On some of the bad things because they didn't take a preemptive step to do anything.
There is
Wow.
there is a place, Rush, New York, that has a wonderful website with many, many pieces of information on it.
I just got tonight emailed on my computer Russia's URL codes and things as to for all their solar stuff.
They're proposed,
Yeah.
you mean?
Yep, so I've got a copy of that tonight on my email, so I've got theirs in Covington's, I've got Byron's, I've got Batavia's, so yes, I'm digging my heels in.
The Stafford also?
I've talked to Bob and I haven't gotten him yet, but he says he's gonna send them to me. So I'm pretty sure he will.
I think on the other
So-
side, I want to make a comment just, I won't say I'm for or against. I think there's a right place and a wrong place for them, for everything, right? So we need to keep our minds open that this is a possibility for the future, but how do we do it the right way? So 2 weeks of every month, I'm traveling to Massachusetts and back. And you will see, if you pay attention, many solar fields that they have decided to put in areas that you can't do anything else with, for one thing. It's not great land. You can't farm it, you can't build on it, you can't do a lot with it. And they have been attentive enough to fit it in there to where you hardly see it unless you're really looking for it. Some of them that are a little more evident are on the Massachusetts Turnpike in medians that go along the Massachusetts Turnpike. What else are you going to put there? But it works. They're not, 200 acres or 2,000 acres or whatever, but they have them all through the area. And so there is a way to do it and do it right. It's just that people have to really pay attention and want to do it the right way. So, there may be places that it is the right thing to do, on a smaller scale, right? And have more of them on a smaller scale. But the huge thing that I see on Route 5 in Caledonia is ugly. It's just ugly. And it's in an area that, you know, has historically been wet. Over time was farmable, but it was wet. How developed anyone would, you couldn't put a house in there. You just couldn't, it's too wet. You couldn't really build there, but it was good farmland that they could farm. So other than it just being ugly, and now they're worried about the lead, which they didn't
Now they're
realize
worried about?
the lead content in these structures and in the panels, because they were unaware that there was lead content. So those are all the questions and the things that need to be asked and researched, to your point, you know, so we're educated to know what's a hazard and what's not, and how to deal with it. But I will say I have seen them done, and done well, not on that largest scale, to people who have paid attention, educated themselves, and really worked at how they did it, how they had it come into the community.
They've got one down for Houghton. They've been down by Houghton College where they have their, down there. They bought that land, their power, those solar farm powers the college. So, you know, they took their land, turned it into something where they use all the electricity that's generated goes through the college. And from what I understand from talking to some of the people in the office at the college, is there's hardly any residual sold to the power company because they're sucking it off. So I mean, that's, you know, that's a situation where those types of things, you know, hey, great. You know, it's one less big municipal building that's off the grid.
But we have to be mindful of that, because to someone's point who said, you know, how big, you know,
Right.
you have a
Oh, yeah.
homeowner that has 3 acres of land or 5 acres of land, he's got enough room, depending on his layout. He could put something like that in my vet in York. That's what her power is. She has a wind turbine and she has solar. I wouldn't want that thing in my side yard, but, you know, she does, and it's her power for the clinic. So you have to think about it, that, you know, it could be the smaller ones even.
These are all things that we need to sit down and discuss and work on.
One more comment, please.
Yes, sir.
So, I'm on the zoning board of appeals. This is me speaking as a private citizen, not as a part of the zoning board of appeals. Having been through a couple of moratoriums in the past, one of the tripwires in the moratorium is if you do not put in that verbiage that says no money can be expended during the moratorium, you put the town in jeopardy, because if the moratorium's over and you tell them no, they can sue you, and they can sue you for what they've got going. That was the deal with the turbines, and I'm sure it's the deal here. So you might talk to Attorney DiMatteo, am I pronouncing that right? He should remember that, but that needs to be in there. Otherwise, you put yourself in jeopardy, and all of us.
Yeah, you can't just implement a moratorium without strings attached. There's a lot of rules I've been through a few in other municipalities, and they have strict rules. Once you implement it, you have to follow those rules, and you need to move right along.
Well, the issue with the wind was they wanted to put up these net towers. The net towers were $100,000 a piece. If you let them do that during the moratorium and then tell them they can't do it, they can come back and have a basis for a lawsuit and recovery.
Because if I'm not mistaken, the public hearing was slated for a moratorium on writing the laws, writing the codes last month. I don't have that in front of me. That's what the public hearing for the large-scale solar projects moratorium was to write the codes for the solar farms in Bethany.
Right. What Bill is saying.
Yeah. Right, so I understand what you're saying, and it does, but
Just a word.
yeah.
So can that be expanded to include the study committee without you changing this evening's work? So how do we know that there will be a study committee if it's only to write the codes? Because
It has nothing to do with the moratorium. Those stipulations are not in the moratorium.
and that's what I'm asking.
That's not usually something included in the moratorium.
Well, one writes the moratorium with their own verbiage.
Well, then we'd have to start all over again. So now
So,
we're gonna have to postpone it for another month, rewrite the ordinance, put that out for another public hearing in another month. So by doing that, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I'm not trying to shortchange it. If we leave the window open till spring, like you're saying, to get it passed, because we'd have to cancel this one, this public hearing, okay, then we'd have to get it redone, bring it up next month,
And
okay?
we are not voting on the
Yeah.
moratorium this
No.
evening, so
Yeah,
it's
we're-
not done tonight.
Yeah.
But
this
I
is-
think your concern is that this group will never get formed.
yes.
So is that something that, if it's in our minutes that we discussed it and we want to move forward with that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
'Cause
that's
this is
pretty
just-
binding if it's in our minutes, right? And
As
then,
long as you follow
then
up
if
on
it doesn't
then you have
happen,
it.
you can say, it was in your minutes,
But you
right?
intend to have a study committee, it's not that you did not intend that.
Oh, I
That's
intend
my
to.
question.
Oh, just like, you know, just like everything else we've done, I am a big proponent of getting the public's input. For all the times that we've had the public hearings and meetings, for the old town hall, and what are we gonna do with that? We tear it down and we sell it. The transfer station, what do we do with that? We tear it down, or do we try to keep using it, raise prices? The old fire hall that we turned into a truck garage that we ended up having to take down because of the asbestos in it. So I'm a resident here, Bethany. I love my town, and I have no problem getting input from people. I want more people to put some sort of input into something, helps give us a better direction on what we need to do as town officials.
We also did a mailing, I believe we did it to the town, where it's basically a yes or no questionnaire when we did the turbine issue. Majority of the town didn't want them at the time, but regardless of that, it's also notifying you. You could do a mailing that's just informed, this is going to moratorium, your input is valued, general opinion, yes or no, and those could be tabulated instead of committee too, just to get an overfeel, and then at the same time, you're notifying every resident. Because a lot of people, as you know, they're caught up in day-to-day jobs, and they're not, if you want to call it politically active or whatever, a lot of them are in their own little world and don't, but when you put it out there, a lot of people take a step back and say, oh yeah, maybe it's something I want to hear. or
Well,
put
I didn't
input in.
budget an extra $700 to do one mailing
Yeah, that was-
for anything, you know, I mean, you know, I mean.
And that's why I'm trying to remember how that was
Yeah, I
budgeted
mean,
that
'cause I
last
mean,
time, you know.
You know, because to do all the house, to do a mailing to all the addresses in Bethany
Yeah.
is one thing. To do a mailing to all the parcel owners in Bethany is like 5 times the residents of Bethany. Because we have a lot of people that own property that don't live in Bethany.
Right.
So, you know, we've already done some mailings to Bethany residents, which was $600-700.
Yeah, that's all, I
You know,
don't think it would be the
You know,
residents.
and if I got to mail to every property owner in Bethany, 2,000-3,000, then I got to raise taxes.
Well, I think we did,
Oh,
I think we
raise
did the
taxes.
residents last time, but anyway, I think you know my point, just try
Well,
to.
no, I get it. I mean, we
people
need to
that
get the word
involved.
out,
Number
yeah.
one, get opinion.
Yeah, I need people
Get
involved. We need people involved. You know, residents need to be involved. You know, I mean, if they were involved with the windmills, why can't they be involved with the solar?
I don't think people are as aware of the solar as they were the windmills, because it's much quieter. What's happening is much quieter. You're not
Right.
seeing it in the papers, you're not seeing it online, you're not seeing a lot of that. I think purposely, the companies themselves are keeping it lower key,
Sure.
because if it's a lower scale, then you're not gonna get the attention, right? So they're working through the mailings to the large landowners, working it that way, and trying to keep it a little bit backdoor almost,
That's
right?
where,
You know,
where
so-
residents too need to take a little initiative, go on their social media, their Twitters or their Facebook or whatever, and, you know,
I mean, we're saying you're saying that you don't know of anyone who's
at this
got that
time,
mailing, but
no.
that's only because no one has come to us and said,
Yes.
hey, I got this piece of paper.
Right.
It's not saying they haven't. I cannot imagine with as much property as there is in Bethany,
Oh, I'm sure
somebody
someone,
hasn't been.
I'm sure there's
approached.
more than one person
That's
that's
the
got
other
it.
issue, because NYSERDA can circumvent this board right here, and like you said.
Oh, yeah, they go
Yeah.
to, ag and markets, you
Yeah.
know, be quiet, you have no say in the matter anymore.
But the right idea is do a study, and it's gonna be unbiased to point, present the facts, facts
Yep.
speak for themselves, but like Diane was saying, there's some places you think they fit in, but in reality, end of the day, it's still large corporation, tax incentives, being subsidized by the state. I brought up at the turbine issue when Invenergy was there, I said if NYSERDA was truly worried about impact and our usage for electricity, they subsidize every homeowner, a couple panels on your roof. Could you imagine if every homeowner had a
That'd be
couple
awesome.
panels to feed back in the zone? That would
That'd be awesome.
be more than you
Yeah.
could ever dream of, and that'd be used, you know,
Yeah, but,
to either use here or go back into the grid and not out west, like you're saying.
you know,
But they don't
everybody
want a
knows.
self-sufficiency thing, it's back to the profit.
everybody
It's all
knows as
money.
well as I do,
Profit.
the governor's gonna force feed us this green energy.
Sure.
He's not allowing any more natural gas pipelines, no more natural gas hookups. They're gonna jam this green energy stuff down our throats until he gets what he wants.
He's given,
But-
he's given Heritage Wind $198 million for the Berry.
But that doesn't mean we roll over,
Right.
That's good.
you know, we
still
don't.
can control what happens if we're proactive and at least we have some ground to stand on. If you have some rules already established,
That's it.
you've got something to fight back with, where if you don't have anything.
And right now, we don't have any rules.
Yeah.
And that's why we want to do this and have this moratorium to give us 6 months where nobody can bother us for 6 months so we can start setting down some rules. This is what we want in Bethany to have on the books. When it comes time to fight, I'd rather fight and have ammunition than go into a fight without it.
Definitely.
So just to reiterate my point, you can't figure out your rules till you know what's going on and you really understand the subject. And there's a large body of information that you need to understand. And then the rules are all around you, and I think you've already said that you have a lot of input from
I
other
do.
towns, so you'll understand what to draw from after you figure out, well, what is this that's happening?
They've
Because
also
it's-
told me, they've also told me what mistakes they made too.
Okay, this is
And
part-
left the door open
This is
for
part of the
certain
study.
things.
This
Yeah,
is part of your study.
yeah, so we will be, you know, this is gonna be an ongoing, monthly running issue.
Right. You just have to be mindful that with the moratorium, as soon as you put it in and it becomes moratorium and your clock starts, they'll be looking to make sure you're proactively moving along and
Yeah.
not stalling. That's a big thing that has come up when I've been involved before, is you have to make sure you can prove what you're doing is bringing value to the end product, to those codes, what you're gonna do, and not just a stalling tactic, because
My
they will
understanding-
dig forever for
My
that.
understanding is that when you study, then you are proving, and actually you can even have 2 extensions. So that,
As long
don't
as
be
you-
afraid of
as
your
long as you
timing.
prove what
As
you're
long
studying.
as we can prove that we're doing something,
Yeah.
That's
we
right.
can get the extensions, but tonight's public hearing on the proposed local law for a large-scale solar project moratorium is, from talking to you, you want us to move forward into doing this. You're not telling us, no, you don't need to do it, Carl, just, you're fine. You know, I mean, that's why we're having this discussion. You know, to get the input from the people on how do we proceed on your behalf. So what I'm getting, correct me if I'm wrong, is the popular opinion is to proceed with the studies, the findings, working on setting up the moratorium for the 6 months so we can get all the qualifying information that we need to have to write the codes for the rules in Bethany for large-scale solar. Does that sum up what we're getting at here? Anybody to the contrary?
As you collectively as a board, have you come to any like preliminary ideas?
No. We all have our own opinions. So,
And I think all of us recognize that we need more information and education to make the right decisions.
yeah,
Because you only get one shot at it.
yeah.
So,
And that's why we're bringing it to the people. Because we need the people's voice to know what to do. Right?
Yeah, I wanted to make a couple of comments. First, from the point of view of primarily geophysics and demographics, and apart from politics, finance, incentives, and so forth. I mean, our planet, the sun is the primary source of energy for our planet. There's a little bit of geothermal coming from radiation within and diffusing outward, but the sun is the biggie.
Don't get over my head.
I won't get over your head. This is, what is it, freshman, high school freshman, earth science. It should-
All right, I'm
it should-
in now.
It should be, it should be.
Okay.
The sun, I mean, a lot of things derive from the sun. Differential heating of the surface gives you the wind, but it really comes from the sun. Or the decay of organic material driven by photosynthesis, which is facilitated by the sun, leads to coal and oil. So really, the sun is the big on our planet. So having said that, and if you do the calculations, the solar constant, that is how much energy is falling per square yard on our planet. It's about a kilowatt per square yard. And there's a lot of square yards in the United States. So when we do the math, we'd only have to harness a fraction of 1% to get all of our energy needs. Now I'm going to drift a little bit into the other section. The places where population is very sparse, like in Nevada or Arizona or something, if you put up a large, the solar energy is going to heat up the desert, or you can put up solar panels and make electricity and sell it to somebody if you're a company and so forth. If you're in a moderately populated area, such as we are, we're not sparsely populated, and there are so many houses and so many families per square mile. Somebody already said this, that you put up a couple of solar panels. If you want solar energy you don't even have to put up any panels. You can just build a house or make your south-facing windows bigger, and you'll get a tremendous amount of solar energy. There's a demonstration project in Buffalo where they took a bunch of ranch houses and they selected they being some company looking at the feasibility of solar. Those ranch houses that had a side of the house facing south, they made the whole thing picture windows. Well, their electric bill went down to zilch because they didn't have to heat. They didn't have to pay for the propane and the oil and the electricity. Here, and Diane mentioned this, somebody's got, maybe you mentioned, Carl, somebody. Here, if you have it, like I have a small farm, it has fields around it. If you have a south-facing window in the winter, when the sun is low, if you're looking at the sun, you're going to get a kilowatt per square yard directly coming in. If the field in front of your house is covered with snow, the sun reflects off of the snow, and you can get almost double that. That's a lot of energy. If the field in front of your house is covered with solar collectors, you're not gonna get that. The energy is gonna go into the solar panel, and then who's gonna get it? Well, I don't know who owns them. Now we get into the politics, you see what I mean? So, from that point of view, and I'm speaking as a resident of the town, and not so much as a scientist, but the pastoral nature, I helped to write the comprehensive plan. We like the pastoral nature of our town. It would be very difficult to maintain if a lot of our farm fields were covered with solar panels. Almost impossible to maintain. So not only is it not necessary, it doesn't make any sense, in my opinion.
Okay.
It's very impacting. There's better ways, I think, to do it.
There's the right way around. I mean, if we had like some swampy area or,
Yeah.
and they could be artistically hidden, you know, it could
But
be.
they want the easy spots.
Right, and I know what you're talking about on the Mass Pike. If you look around, you gotta look for them.
Yeah, you do.
So they don't have to be obtrusive.
No.
But there are places where they are blatantly and disgustingly obtrusive. And property values go to hell and everything else.
Well, and I think they want it that way. That's what they're looking for, are those places.
Well, you would think
to
they would
stick 'em
wanna
up.
pick
Not,
people off.
yeah, but I think they want the easy way where they can put the most of them up for the least amount of money and get the biggest impact.
Sure.
They don't care what it looks like.
Right.
And
It's a
so we
money-
as residents have to be the ones who care
Right.
what it looks like, you know,
But-
and mitigate that.
If we want to preserve our town, like, I mean, I totally agree with Carl that, the governor, I don't think cares about the
No,
town.
it's not in his backyard. No.
We'll leave that topic.
I'll leave it alone because I may say something that'll put me in jail.
Okay, any other comments? So we
Is this
will.
something that your board can vote on into the minutes, if this is going to be, as far as the study committee, something that's going to happen? Is this something you guys can?
No, yeah, until we get ready, I mean, when we get to the package,
So we can put it in the minutes
It-
that
we-
that discussion happened and we
And
agreed.
I have.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's in the minutes that we've
Yeah.
discussed.
But as far as taking a vote on your opinion for the board
Yes.
itself to say you agree that we should have involvement of.
Yeah, this public hearing is, there is no vote for this
Yeah.
tonight. This, we needed the public input on the subject of doing a proposed local law for large-scale solar project moratorium. So now we'll go back, we write all the wherewithals into the moratorium on, you know, we're gonna have a committee of, you know, town supervisor, tax assessor, code enforcement, planning board chairman, and a half a dozen town residents to work on the moratorium and the codes for the solar projects in Bethany. So once we get all that written out and come back in with a complete package, which I'm hoping to have in next month's meeting, then we will vote on it. It'll be presented to the public, we'll read it, have questions and answers again, you know. Hopefully, that's why I've taken notes on the things that you folks have said, so I can try to get it all in, because I don't want to delay any longer than we have to, because the longer we delay, it opens the window up for someone to sneak in. You know, so, you know, we're gonna have a committee for the solar farms, no money's gonna be spent during the moratorium, residents are gonna be part of the committee. You know, that's what we're gonna write into, yes
So I
ma'am?
just want to reiterate, you're going to study first, and then you're going to write the code, is that correct? Because there's no
Yes.
way of.
No, yeah.
You can't write the codes without knowing what you're
Yeah,
writing.
we're gonna do, yeah,
I'm
we're
not-
gonna
I
have
wasn't hearing that.
Yeah.
a lot of meetings of the minds with information that everybody gathers to write the codes.
So the code develops while you're studying. So while you're studying and these points are coming up, whether they be environmental or hazard or whatever, that's when you look at other codes and use those also as an example and say, well, they don't have anything in here about this, but we think we should have something in ours. So that's when you make your notes to the points you want to put in the code.
Yes,
So
I
your
like-
code kind of develops
Your
roughly.
code can develop, but it wouldn't be written in stone
No.
until you finish your study and you see the
Yeah,
entire picture.
because when you write a code, it has to have specific wording, right? So it has to be looked at legally and not only to protect us, but also to make sure that we can
It has to stand up in
regulate,
court.
that we
Yes.
can regulate it and it would stand up in court, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there may be things we'd like to regulate really strictly that, you know, Dave or whomever is our legal counsel would say, we need to word it this way because I can defend that, but I couldn't defend this. So,
I think you'll see a lot of that in the code that's already there, and you'll be able to adopt part of that.
Well,
It'll be easier
and
to
if there's some there that'll help us find a few shortcuts, you know,
Yeah.
hey, as long as the committee is in agreement, then we'll move ahead for the town of Bethany. Because what we're doing for the town of Bethany. So, any other questions? Comments about it? Okay, then at this time, 8:15, I will close the public hearing for questions and answers for the proposal of the law for the large-scale solar projects moratorium. That being said, is there any other questions on anything? Okay, need a motion to adjourn? Jeff Luker, second. Diane, all those in favor? Opposed? So be it. Thank you all for coming tonight.
please come back to the next meeting.
Yeah, come to the next
And bring
meeting,
your friends.
please.
Get the word out there so people know.
Bring the information.
Even if they don't agree with you, we need to hear that too.
Good.